goal isn't to live forever. The goal is to create something that will.
Welcome to Perspective, a podcast for wedding creators where we sit down, always with a special guest, and talk about our many years of experience in the wedding industry so that you can learn from us and grow your wedding business. Hello, I'm Simon.
And I'm Greg.
Together, we are Cinemate Film's two Scottish-based wedding filmmakers who love nothing more than drinking coffee, and on today's episode, Liquid Death, and talking to others in the wedding industry. This episode is sponsored by With Jack and Pick Time, but you'll hear all about that in the pre-recorded ads. I'm sorry, but you have to live with it. Greg.
Yes.
Who are we talking to today?
We are talking to Autumn Jordan.
Hello, Autumn.
Hi, friends.
Thank you for joining us.
I'm so happy to be here.
Yeah. Thanks for joining us. How are you doing?
Yeah.
I'm doing good. I mean, like I said, I have this bagel sitting in front of me. We'll see how long it continues to sit here. It's like toasted too, so the texture is going to evolve over the next.
Whoa! You
time.
have a cooked bagel. What's in the bagel?
It's more about the bagel itself. It's like a poppy seed bagel, which is like a great bagel. I think inside is just plain cream cheese. It's like a bakery by my house that does like great. Speaking of trends, like trendy things, right? They have like the cruffin, the croissant muffin, and all of that stuff. But now they're like dabbling in bagels, and it looked good. But now looking at it, I'm like, this is too fluffy for a bagel. I think this is like a baker making a bagel, not like a bagel pro.
Right. Okay. Fair enough. And this is just by your side.
This is it's just right here.
Are we going to be hearing some munching throughout the episode?
I doubt it. I think she'll just be staring at me. We'll see.
Oh, and then to get it all cold and that makes me sad.
No, it's okay.
You're more than welcome to eat. You're more than welcome to have a wee snack.
We'll see what the listeners think.
That's a different type of video content, actually.
That's true. We'll create a second channel with just the good stuff.
Autumn eats. It's got a wee ring to it.
Autumn eats.
I like the sound of that.
You know what, Autumn? You can have that one.
Okay. I'll take it. I'll run with it. Maybe that'll be my off season. My retirement plan. Truly.
That's it. Amazing.
So why don't you introduce yourself? Who is Autumn? Yeah. What do you do for listeners who might not have heard of you?
Oh, wow. Okay. So hi, I'm Autumn Jordan. I'm a New York-based wedding photographer working primarily on medium and large format film and sometimes Super 8. I currently live in the Hudson Valley, which is about an hour and a half north of New York City. And I've been taking photos what feels like my whole life, but since I went to school for it back in the day. And I think... You know what? I need to get better at introing myself, but that is me.
I think that was beautifully put.
Thank you.
But yeah, so let's talk about your work first of all, and how you arrived at the place that you are now creatively.
Okay, I love that. Should I dive in?
Just dive in. Tell us all about yourself.
Okay. Perfect. Wow, all about it. Okay, so really back in the day, I grew up in Chicago, but jumping ahead of there, I went to school in Vermont, what I initially thought would be to study languages. It was like what I was excited about, the ripe age of 18, because we all know what we want at 18, as we talked about our past tattoos earlier before this. We all really know what we want. And I'd always taken like art classes in like middle school, high school. I took like a basket weaving camp one summer. That was really formative. Just kidding. I've not woven a basket since, but like maybe I should.
That could be your third channel.
That'd be my third channel.
Yeah.
I've like always like dabbled creatively and like, I went to a pretty atypical school, a school called Bennington that like didn't have majors. You had like a plan instead where you like kind of wove together, not to go into this basket weaving now, like pun or whatever, metaphor, but you like wove together all of your interests. And, I wanted to study language. I was studying language. I like studied abroad, that whole thing. And then my advisors like, hey, Autumn, like you need to like round yourself out a little bit. You like can't just like be in language classes or like literature classes. And I was like, okay, like I'll just dabble in art again because that feels good. And then there's this whole thing there where signing up for classes is just kind of chaotic because they're very small. Classes are like 8 students there. It's super lucky. And I don't know like what compelled me to be like, I think photography is it, but I had to like run for my life up to this desk to sign up for a photography. Cause it's like, they open the doors and you run to the people and you sign up for classes. It's a very messed up way to sign up for classes.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yes. Like luckily you only have to do that for like your first year, 2 years. Anyways, I like begged to be let into a photo class with like no merit. Like there were people, you know, at the small college who were like, it is my life dream to be a photographer. And I was just like standing in front of my future professor being like, if you don't let me into this class, I feel like I might be making a mistake with what I've like come here to study. And I don't know what even compelled me to say that. Like I was like much more into like painting or things that were tactile at that point, which photography very tactile, and drawing, but just like something deep in my core. And then, you know, you sign up for classes a semester before. So she let me into the class essentially. She's like, there's a wait list of like 25 people in front of you, but just like give me your piece of paper. Cause I think she was probably overwhelmed by me saying like, oh, I might have made a mistake coming here or with what I'm doing with my life. And so I had the summer before the next semester. I promise this all makes sense. And I'd gotten into this class and I was like, oh, dang, I have to get a camera for this class. That's like on the supply list. You know, they're like, oh, you need like your RC paper, all of that for the darkroom. They're like, we'll provide film, that sort of thing. But like, you need a camera. This was back in, I'm just giving myself away here. I guess this is back in 2011. And I spent like my first couple of weeks back home in Chicago scouring Craigslist because that was the place where you find other people's things they don't want anymore back in the day. And this person advertised like, I have all these cameras. They're like $25 each. You have to meet me at this one L stop. The train in Chicago is elevated, called the L. So I took the train. I remember I was going to a neighborhood that like my family would not have been happy I was like going to. And it was like evening, but I'm like, oh, I'm just going to hang out with friends. I'm going to Poor Phil's, this bar that served underage people. I'm like, I'm just going there with friends, which that was totally fine. But going to this other neighborhood on the other side of the city, not fine at night by myself. Like if my family had known, they would have driven me. Regardless, I show up, I meet this man under the train tracks. He has a whole duffel bag full of SLRs. He's like, choose anyone you want. He's like, where's your cash? And I'm just like, oh, here you go. And then he's like, choose anyone you want. I knew nothing about cameras at all. And I just like reach into the bag. And like my very first camera was a Canon AE1 actually, because it was silver. It was like chromish, you know? And I was like, this one is pretty. And, you know, I think I chose pretty well for my first $25 camera. Because I just bought my niece one of those. I spent like $300 on it. I'm like, times have changed. But that was essentially, long story short, I like spent that summer not knowing how to read a light meter, not knowing how to even attach my lens properly based on how some of the photos turned out. But like, it was just with me all summer long. And I took some of the worst photos of my life, but had so much fun. And I was like, I love having this thing with me and like documenting my family and my little cousins and the city and being at the beach. And it was just like the first thing in my life that totally made sense. So that was like the photography start. But I guess we'll skip ahead a couple of years because like, you know, I was at school doing like very experimental stuff. Where I was at school was like very much not a technical school, but conceptual. And like, if you had asked me, you know, in my 18 through even 25, if I would be a wedding photographer one day, I would have been like, no, that's weird. I would have been like, what kind of loser do you think I am? Just kidding. But I was like, that kind of commercial work was not cool to me at the time. And it's not that it wasn't cool. It like didn't inspire me. Like during college, I got to photograph a professor's wedding, which was really fun. But I thought that was a one-off because it was so unique. It was like, they had this tea party. Everyone brought teapots. There were like dozens of teapots out and everyone was just having this afternoon tea. And like, they had these beautiful suits and it was a gay wedding. And I was like, there's no way every wedding is like this. So I kind of like wrote off wedding photography. I was like, oh, that was just a really fun day. And then graduated school, all of the dark rooms were closing. I took no digital classes in school. They didn't really emphasize that there.
Okay.
And like it was of the film time still. So I graduated really hoping I would work in a dark room. All of the dark rooms, I was living in Boston at the time, 4 out of 5 of them closed within my first 6 months of living there. And I was like going around begging and pleading for a darkroom job. And there'd be a guy being like, it is just me. Like, I'm not even paying myself. Like, you cannot work here. He's like, no one's bringing film here. Like, no. So at that point, I was like, I got to get a day job to like afford taking film photos still, but it wasn't as expensive back then. It was like $3 for a roll of film, and I maybe paid like $7 to get the roll processed, and I was just scanning at home, so it was like $10 for a roll of film total. Amazing. Can't even buy a roll for that now. But I was just working all these jobs to take photos, and then, you know, young, living in a city, I needed to make money, as we all do. So back to Craigslist, I noticed all these people were like always getting married a couple days later at like City Hall or something. And like they'd be like $500 to come take our wedding photos. And I was like, oh, great. So I bought a digital camera and just would sometimes photograph people outside City Hall after their like civil ceremony.
Okay.
But still then it didn't like quite click with me that it could be like art, because I was like, oh, the digital camera, like it's just this like tool to do this thing. I wasn't like moved in the same way. But then, wow, I feel like I'm like oversharing now. Worked a lot of day jobs after that, still just trying to afford making my own art. And then found myself in my first full-time photography job as my day job. This is back in 2018. So we're catching up now. Okay. And I was like, sorry if I'm talking too much.
It's okay. Brilliant. It's a podcast. This is what we're here for. This is great.
Great. So I was like photographing for a hospitality company as this hotel was coming to life. I was photographing the food, the spaces, but I was actually really moved by the people in there. Like there were these contractors and artisans working on this project every day. And I started photographing them, and everyone's like, Autumn, why are you photographing the contractors? And I'm like, cause their story is like actually way cooler than like the room itself that they're putting together. And that's when I started like realizing that like my art wasn't so much like these conceptual ideas anymore. My art was like noticing and paying attention to people doing their normal things. And then it was from that some of my colleagues, now we're jumping to the pandemic. It's the pandemic now. I still was not photographing weddings with regularity. Some of my pals were getting married during the pandemic. And like, as you knew, like you couldn't really have a bunch of strangers at your wedding during that time when it was like lockdown. And they're like, you know, you're not supposed to have more than like 7 people together outside or something like that. So I started having friends be like, hey, Autumn, like, could you come photograph my wedding? You know, we're keeping this small. We're trying not to have anyone we don't know there. And I was like, you do know, like I photograph martinis for a living, right? And they're like, no. We've seen like your portrait stuff. And I was like, I know nothing about photographing to a wedding. I've been to like one real wedding in my life since, you know, being a child as a flower girl. I was like, I've photographed one real wedding in my whole life. And even that was super unique. And they're like, that's fine. And I'm like, okay, well, if I'm going to do this, I'm going to do it my way. And I'm just going to bring my Hasselblad, and we're just going to like spend the day together. And like, that's where it started, was like photographing a couple of good friends' weddings that were also like very DIY, very sweet, because it was pandemic. And I had realized like all of the weddings I had the point to photograph at that point, a whopping 3, you know, weddings, if you think of wedding in terms of like not just a civil ceremony.
Yeah.
And I was like, these are really beautiful like celebrations of joy, but there's also like a lot of other emotions there that interest me too. Like it's not just like the big sweeping ones. And then, you know, pandemic was awful. I found myself laid off from my job. So I posted on Instagram, I am a full-time wedding photographer.
Okay.
Yeah, you know, where you make announcements back in 2020, 2021. And like within a week, I had booked 2 weddings with strangers based on having no website, on like only posting photos of food and landscapes, and a couple of my friends' wedding photos. But I was just more like, oh, look at these beautiful photos of my friend being married, not like really highlighting my role in it.
Yeah.
And yeah, since 2021, I've just been on a roll with it, I guess.
That's amazing. By the way, what a time to start. Like,
Fuck? I know. And also too, like, I just can't believe the gusto I had. Like, I remember, getting, I'll be honest here, I was fired from my job, but it wasn't for anything like that. But I remember, like, my partner, my husband, he's like, he wasn't my husband then, but he was like, you know what, you could take a day to cry about it, but like then you need to like figure something out.
Yeah.
He was supportive and all of that. So, I got a little severance money. So I was like, you know what, I'm gonna buy a second digital camera because like I can't show up to these things and like only have one camera because I'm like, what if it breaks? I had that foresight. But I just remember like wallowing in the bath the next morning, just posting an Instagram story that I was a full-time wedding photographer. I'm like, what kind of gust? Like, I love that I just decided that was it, because like there were other things I could have like jumped back into another like photography role, a little bit more commercial work like I had been doing. But I was just like, this is it. And like the universe totally answered during a really crazy time, because like it was still... It was a lot of backyard weddings my first year, and I think that part like made it really fun and really sweet.
Yeah. I was gonna say like those weddings in particular, where it was like far less people, they were more like in more personal spaces. They did have a kind of a unique. I mean, every wedding's unique, but I mean like that personalness of it.
Yeah,
it was quite exciting.
Yeah, like, I think those early weddings really had that like sentiment of like it takes a village, and it would like really feel like that, because it was oftentimes like either somebody's backyard, whether it was the couple or their parents or a friend, and like like maybe they'd have a caterer, but oftentimes like some family member would be cooking food or cake or something, because people were really just being scrappy, but also just trying to keep things so small.
Yeah. I want like going back to those courthouse weddings that you said, you'd obviously, your background was in film, you'd shot film up until then, and you said when you started to do them, you went out and bought a digital camera. So what was the mindset there? Why did you think, now I need a digital?
I think it was because what I was seeing everyone else doing. I had fallen into that trap at that time because I had a few friends doing that. And I was also thinking about like immediacy. And I think at that point, I was really trying to keep like my day job, which given that wasn't my day job, but that was like a way to pay the rent, and my art really separate, because I was so concerned the moment I mixed up my art making with my day job, I wouldn't like making art anymore. So it's like I almost like wouldn't even allow myself to like make art at those courthouse weddings, which I really regret. Minus one couple. One couple knew I took film photographs because like, we were emailing, then she found me on Instagram. And this is a family that to this day, I still photograph this family like annually. And it's like, they were the only ones that like got some artsy photos from me.
Yeah.
But everyone else, it's almost like I didn't even want to explain my art making to them, because I'm like, this isn't art, this is transactional, is like how I viewed it, which is a shame, because I'm like, oh, how many missed opportunities was that? But I just like wasn't ready yet either.
Yeah. By the way, I have to say that I don't know of any other photographer who gets their first camera. I mean, dare I say off the black market, but it very much felt like dark alleyway.
It sounded like a proper Craigslist experience.
It really was. And it was like this rattling big gym duffel bag full of Minoltas, Pentax, like Nikon. Like part of me is like, oh man, I should have fished around for a Nikon like F2 if I only knew. But I'm sure there was one in there.
I want to know where he got all these cameras. What on earth? That's hilarious. But yeah, I mean, I can see why you wanted to upgrade your camera. You're like, what?
It didn't take long for an upgrade. Like I did.
Okay.
Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off. I started with the AE1, and within, I think it was only a semester later. So like that first semester I was on the AE1. By my second semester, I had begged my family to financially support me in purchasing a Hasselblad.
Right, yes, because you did mention the Hasselblad.
The true love of my life. Or I think I just like pooled my allowance irresponsibly. Not that I really had an allowance. I was supposed to use it to like buy food. You're a college student. But I was like, you know what? This is a much better use of this month's grocery budget.
Just out of pure curiosity, what was the Hasselblad that you eventually got?
Yeah, I got a Hasselblad 500 CM with a full lens kit for. Wow, I just love talking about old camera prices too. The whole thing was like $500 for my Hasselblad and 3 lenses and 2 backs.
I'm sorry, how much?
Like 500.
They're not that now.
No, no. And I feel so sad because like over the years, I sold 2 of the lenses to like pay rent when I was living in Boston. But I actually just repurchased 1 back that I've been missing. So I was like,
okay,
that feels nice. But for more than I purchased that whole kit back in the day.
yeah. Am I right in saying that they created a digital sensor for that camera? Like you can just
They
whack
did.
on the back? Yeah.
They have. And like, I've thought about it. I've heard it's slow.
Okay.
I would like to rent one at some point because I also, wow, not to like reveal so early on how much of a gearhead I am, but I also just purchased an RZ67 with the thought of like maybe I slap a digital back on that at some point. But I've just heard it's slow. I am like really curious and excited to play around with like medium format digital world at some point, but I don't know if weddings are the place where I'd play with that or like commercial work.
Yeah.
Yeah. So what, in terms of, right. So you do shoot film and digital at a wedding, correct?
I do, yeah.
Okay. Surely film is inherently slow in general, right? Like
It's true. Yeah. Most of my cameras too are manual focus, so I'd say I'm shooting very slow.
yeah. Okay, so where's that fear of going to a camera that's still slow when
Slow.
your mindset is already kind of slow in general? Like, is it that much slower?
Wow, Simon, I haven't had anyone put it to me in those terms, but now I'm like, what is actually holding me back? Because I feel like I even shoot digital the way I shoot film. Like, I'm lucky if I walk away from a wedding day with like 800 digital photos.
Whoa.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's
Holy
usually
shit.
like I don't know, 150 to like 500, and I'm like good on the digital end. But then the film end is usually like just as much.
That'll give a lot of listeners anxiety hearing that. Like, I come home with 2,000 easy.
Oh, yeah. Like my mantra is like, we shoot for keeps on wedding days.
Yeah.
It's like, don't just like go into the, like sometimes go into the oblivion. Like, you know, if you know something epic's about to happen with like, if you sense a dip is coming in the first dance, like go crazy, like get the dip, you know, or like if there's maybe the first kiss, but even that, I'm like, no one frames the photo of their first kiss. Like, where does that go? But yeah, I think being more thoughtful allows you to pay more attention.
Yeah. You know, it's funny. The first kiss is one of those fear moments, isn't it, for photographers?
All of us, we're like all clenched and waiting. But
But at the end of the day, it's just the couple kissing. I'm sure they've got loads of that. They see
how many
every day?
Like, how many houses have you been in and there's a picture of the couple kissing?
At the altar.
Yeah.
Especially at an altar or something.
Yeah.
No. So I've been like trying to even take more risks with that, or even on this past weekend, there was a lot of space behind the altar, like tons, a whole field. And I was collaborating with someone who was doing digital for the ceremony while I did film. And I was like, hey, Anna, like, go into that field. I want you to actually photograph everyone watching them kiss. I think that's going to be so much more interesting than them kissing.
Yes, my God. The amount of... So we've had a lot of like little conversations about point of view, and I mean, it's all kind of tied around this idea of being cinematic, which is one of those nebulous terms. And it's always like, you know, when photographers like shoot a couple coming into a room, I'm like, they're just always coming into a room. They don't want to see that. They want to see everyone cheering and whooping as they come into the room. So getting to see their faces, I think, is where the emotions lie. So it's nice that we're all kind of starting to realize that maybe our point of view needs to shift a little bit in how we work, which is nice.
Yes, it's like we can't just be relying on like a checklist, because like I don't even think like the checklist in terms of like first kiss, like dip at the first dance, like I don't think that's evolved to follow up with like what people want to remember.
Yeah. It's so sorry, Greg, I cut you off there, honey. So you mentioned the kissing and stuff, and the the amount of photographs that you take at a wedding, which I think is mind blowing. I went to a Jennifer Moore shoot, just a style shoot. I walked away with over 4,000 images. All right, what?
From one body as well.
This is from one body. I obviously. So Greg and I were Sony shooters. We upgraded our camera to do stills to the A7. A9 III.
That's what my collaborator uses. Those photos are so pretty.
I mean, they're very nice. But because I'm a video person first, I tend to just have continuous focus and I just hold it and I'm moving in and out. But I'm taking like hundreds of photos.
So you're photographing
at this one moment.
The way you video, though, which makes sense.
Yeah, which is unusual. And then I saw Jennifer Moore do the exact same thing. I was like, oh, that's interesting. Had to ask her approach there. Yeah. I was like, what are you like shooting a lot? She's like, yeah, and I'll probably get 1 or 2 images from that whole sequence. I'm like, right, okay. And her thing is cinematic images. So I'm wondering if there's a way of like, is that moving with the scene and taking, I don't know. Yeah. Fascinating. But I was just looking through your blog there and I came across, I think it's the first, I can't remember, I've shut the page now. It was images of a first dance and it was all about feel. It seemed like it was all motion blur and you couldn't really see what was going on, but you felt what was going on. And I thought, is this your approach for all the elements of a wedding? Or, I mean, obviously a major part of a photographer's job is to document. So how do you balance those kind of elements in your portfolio?
Yeah, I'd say my work, I divide it in terms of like a wedding day into 2 camps. I think about the photographs that like my couple or like if it was me, I should have put myself in their shoes. If it was me, what photos do I want immediately? And I want photos that feel like a wedding day. And it's like my goal, and I tell all my couples this, is like, I want to hand your whole wedding day back to you. Like even the weather, like I want you to feel that in your photographs.
Yeah.
Versus I know there's photographs that like 20 years from now, 50 years from now will be so important then, even 100 years from now, and we don't exist. So I try to balance like, what are the photos that are going to be like historical record or archive one day versus the photographs that feel like a wedding day. And I don't think like a historical like archive needs to be a stuffy or a still photo either, but it needs to be a photo that like you look at it and you get a sense of like who that person was or is. So for me, a lot of it is a feeling, or like approaching the day and like really being so present in wanting the photographs to feel like that day.
Yeah.
Was there a point, you mentioned earlier on that you wanted to keep your art and your work, as in like the paid wedding photography stuff, separate, and that was when it was the courthouse stuff. Was there a point where things changed and you were like, I'm happy incorporating my art into my weddings?
Yeah, I think it was those very first friends asking me to photograph their weddings, my sweet friends, Alexis and Andrew and Sam and Marcel, who like, I had no like history or proof to stand on, and they just put full trust in my ability to show up and like execute photographs on their wedding day. And I realized, like, having not been to many weddings, I kind of did skip over the fact I was editing for other wedding photographers before I jumped into weddings. So I would see what a wedding looks like, and I would edit it in the style that somebody else wanted me to do. This is before AI editing. I was people's AI editor.
Okay.
But I would also see how many photos they wanted to deliver that were the same too. So for me, that was like, I think it really helped my ability to cull in the future, because, you know, they would cull everything and send it to me, and I'd be like, there's like 10 of these photos look almost the exact same, and you want me to just edit them all and deliver it? But I think for me, it was that trust from friends. And it was like, also, I think it's almost because I didn't know any better, that I was like, I'm just going to show up and photograph this the way I like photographing, because like I didn't want it to feel like my day job anymore. I wanted it to just be something that like felt like a gift for the couple, but also for myself.
Yeah. And did that pay off? Did you still feel that way? And
Every
can
time.
you still feel confident about creating art outside of work?
Every time. So like at this point, yes, like my full job in this life is to photograph people doing what they love. That's 99% weddings, but I still do some like restaurant hospitality work too, but like
Okay.
only for brands I'm super aligned with.
Mm-hmm.
But I always joke like the day that one wedding feels like the next to me is the day I agree to never photograph any more weddings, because that's just like it's not fair to my client if I go in there with a checklist, or I go in there with this idea even of what their day will be like, or the moment. Like there's some venues I love shooting at time and time again because they're close to home. I like love the team there. I love the vibe. And it's like even the day two of those weddings at the same place look the same or have the same motion to me, I know that like my heart's not in it anymore. But like
Yeah.
at this point, I still like feel my heart fully growing into what I'm doing. Like I'm still like kind of a horse out of the starting gate every single wedding day.
Yeah. Not a bad thing either.
Hey, I'm Ashley from With Jack. I'm one of the sponsors of the Perspective podcast. With Jack helps to keep photographers in business by supporting them financially and legally if they have problems with a client or they make a mistake in their work. We've all had that fear of our CF card or our hard drive failing and losing important photos. You can find out more at withjack.co.uk. Head over there and find out how we can help you be a confident creative.
I want to know more about this non-checklist approach to wins then.
Yeah.
Because I think I don't think many photographers go in with a full-on checklist written down, like gotta get this. But I think in their head they are making sure that things are gotten, and they're making assumption that those things are going to be at this wedding that they're going to go to. You know, like bride next to a big window, but whatever it may be. What's how are you able to not stress about, or maybe you do stress, I don't know.
I do stress leading up to the day.
Okay.
Like for me, like a big part of my process is really spending a lot of time with my couples ahead of their wedding day, whether it's emailing, it's hopping on the phone. I do try to spend quality time with anyone who's like local-ish to me. So anywhere between here in New York City or up in Vermont, even, I do like make the trek to spend time with them, like on a human level. And like, you know, there's always going to be a certain photo that a couple really wants, right? Like sometimes they want like a ring shot, you know, they want the hands with the rings, or they, you know, might want a looking over the shoulder or a bride in the window, for instance. And it's like, I am totally here to help realize those dreams. And it's like, I do go in with notes, but I don't go in with like, no wedding is the same. I should be fully transparent. I am so lucky that I have two primary collaborators for all of my work, Ash and Anna. And like, I know that like they are documenting everything because they are filling up SD cards for me that like exist if I need them. But for me, I'm able to go in there and be like, my job is to like be present. It's to like not go in with an ego. It is to not go in with an idea of what today is going to like be like in terms of photographs. It's like to be very present. Even if I've done a site visit, I'm like, I'm not going to get emotionally attached to like putting this person here or like having family portraits right here. Like it's good to have options, but I really just try to keep as open-minded as possible on that. And then I really just try to match like the energy of the room, right? So there's some people that are like so excited for their paparazzi moment, and I'll try and lean into that. But then there's some people that are so nervous and it's in quiet, and I'm like, let me just sit with you and be nervous or quiet. Or like wedding days can have a lot of grief in them too. And it's like, it's not uncommon for me to sit there with somebody who's really going through a moment on their wedding day and being like, hey, do you want to sit together or do you want to be alone? Because I can also step out for a moment. But oftentimes we sit together and I'll put the camera down and we just we just sit and talk about people we wish could be there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, nice.
Those collaborators that you said you work with, is that like what most people would refer to as a second shooter? And is that to give you the freedom to go slower and to take those moments?
100%. And it's also too, like, I used to use the word like second shooter. I've switched to collaborator because I think it sets like a really great, well, one, they're like artists I admire, like in their own right. I love their work. Like they are my favorite photographers as people, but also too, by like calling them my collaborator from the start, I think, and that's also with my couples, that's how I like talk to them. I think it like helps kind of break down this hierarchy that like I'm not more important than them on a wedding day, that if someone needs something, they can trust that that person can also take an amazing photo of that. But that said too, I wouldn't say that like my work or my galleries are just, it's not like the safe shots are still in there. Like it's, for me, it is peace of mind because I primarily work on film. So it's peace of mind that somebody else is getting everything digitally. But it's also too, like there's moments where like we aren't in the same place, and it's amazing to see what Ash or Anna document in this other side of the room, other side of the venue, sometimes a totally different location. And it also like inspires me because sometimes like two brains together, we just like start spinning ideas that like I couldn't have riffed off if I was on my own either. So I feel like really grateful to, you know, I am still alone some wedding days, but I love the days where I do have somebody with me.
Yeah. I think that's why like Greg and I will always go to weddings together.
Yeah,
I like
it's
that.
the best.
It's good. It's good times. Good times.
Yeah, you have like emotional support.
Yes.
In addition to creative support.
Yeah, I think half the time Greg is definitely my safety blanket. I'm like,
yeah.
But yeah, I wanna know more about Ash and Anna. Can I ask you for their names so I can look them up on Google?
Yeah, absolutely. Ash is Ash Bean. She might be easier to find on Instagram because her work is primarily commercial work. She does shoot weddings on her own too. But her commercial and fashion work, photo. Yeah.
Okay. Oh, there she is on her Instagram. Cool.
Yeah, her
cool.
commercial work
just to
is
see
incredible.
styles and stuff.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Cool. I'm not gonna look at. I'll just open the window and I'll leave it. And
I love it. And then Anna is Anna Victoria, which she'll be easier to find. Well, Anna Victoria Photography, maybe Catskill, New York. I know her Instagram name is not her real name, which can be hard to find. But she does really beautiful like portrait work, small maker work, like local artisans doing their craft.
Anna A. Victoria?
Yeah, Anna A. Victoria.
Okay.
But both of them have a beautiful way of documenting people and a very different way of photographing than I do. Like Ash, I'd say, is so technical when it comes to like lighting and flash and posing. And then Anna is like very like raw and honest with her subject. And I kind of fall somewhere in the middle. So like we're always a really sweet counterbalance to each other. And there's a whole bunch of other people I love working with too, but I'd say those two come to most of my weddings with me.
Yeah, that's so cool. What is that called actually? I know you've mentioned collaborator, but we've heard it before where someone gets like the creative photography to do. The third eye?
Someone referred to,
Someone mentioned this before.
I think that's more so where the client has booked two separate photographers and one of them's for a certain thing, the other one's for a certain thing.
Right, okay.
And I think somebody did refer to it as third eye photography.
Yeah,
or something
okay.
like that,
Oh, that's cool. So, we have talked about some camera gear, but I want to know more about what you actually take on a wedding.
Yeah.
If there's any sneaky things that no one else has in their bag or,
well,
so what's in your camera bag?
Oh my gosh. I mean, should I do a little bit of a show and tell? Because there's one thing that I think is pretty fun. I do have all my cameras next to me.
You have to.
Absolutely.
I'll just like slide over. Oh, sorry, there's a cat toy on the sofa. So I think like for me, my most exciting bag of tricks, which it has to be a wedding day that's a little slower, which I do try to have every wedding day be really slow, but sometimes a lot going on. But my favorite wedding days, they get this camera. Only the coolest of the cools. So I do bring I do bring a 4x5.
4x5. Jesus Christ. Okay, cool.
So 4x5 folds up flat in my bag.
Uh-huh.
And then also at every wedding. Wow, this is very fun. I feel like I'm just shopping my own shop.
Oh, yeah, this is great. Plus, it gives people an excuse to go to our YouTube channel and hit subscribe.
It's true. So Hasselblad that I've had forever comes to every wedding still. We love her. Uh-huh. We love the chrome. My other favorite, this camera is slowly becoming my desert island camera because one time it was accidentally the only camera I packed for a trip. But the Pla Belle Machina, she's very fun. She's like the most compact 6x7 camera that exists. So huge frame size.
I like that mechanism, how you pull it out. That's cool.
Oh yeah, it's a bellows focusing system. So you only get 10 shots per roll, but they're 10 really good shots.
Yeah.
And then I guess it's worth showing, but not so much. And then typically the M6 is coming with me to every wedding. Mm-hmm. And then digitally, when I am shooting digitally, I bring an R5 and usually just the Sigma Art lens, the 35 for that.
Okay. Yeah. Okay, cool. Always just the 35?
I do have the 28 to 70. So if I'm solo and I know a lot's going to happen, I'll throw that on maybe for ceremony or reception.
Yeah.
But usually this past weekend, I only kept the Sigma Art 35 on. And that's my favorite digital lens.
Yeah. You mentioned always shooting manual. Is that with digital as well? I think you mentioned that, right? Yeah.
Yes.
How does that is that smooth sailing when you move from one medium to the other?
It is. I think for me, I'm so used to these cameras, and given on any given wedding day too, there's a couple other pals I bring along. I mean, I have a Pentax 645. That comes sometimes. The Contax G1 comes sometimes.
Did you just refer to your cameras as pals?
Yeah, they're friends.
I love that.
They're friends. It's I kind of decide who wants to come out and play that day, and I spend time with my couples beforehand, and maybe they were really delighted by a certain camera. I also just got an 8x10. I haven't brought that to a wedding yet, but here's hoping. Okay.
Oh my God! Right.
Yeah.
So how many of these end up in your camera bag when you remember to pack them?
Yes. So my my new rule of thumb I've been trying to follow is 2-2-2, if that makes sense. So 2 medium formats, 2 35, and 2 digital. But usually my secondary digital will be the Fuji X100V or whatever, something I can kind of play with a little bit more. And typically I'm shooting in black and white on that. Like my recipe that's dialed in there. And it can be really fun for reception photos if I want something not so big on me, where I can be in there and no one feels like they're being watched while dancing or drinking or whatnot. But the G1 is good for that too. And so is the Leica. And the waist level viewfinder, medium formats. But lately I've been trying to be and then a large format. So 7 cameras. But they're not all on me at once.
You're wearing 2 holsters,
Yeah, I've given up on harnesses recently. I'm I should really only ever have 2 cameras on my body. There's no reason, because the moment you have to choose between 3 cameras, it's not good. And then I'm also my other rules, I should never have 2 medium formats on me. I should have 1 medium format, 135, or if I'm doing large format work, maybe I just have a medium format on me too. I try to keep it simple in that regard. And then I do joke the Holga doesn't count. The Holga is almost always on my body or in my pocket.
Sure. Yeah. Okay. Fair enough.
Yeah. What is it about film? Why have you, from learning film, why have you stayed true to it all these years?
Yeah, I think, well, for me, it's always been film. That's how I learned to take pictures. And I think it remains film for 2 reasons. One, I think the cameras really delight people and open them up in a different way. I think especially with guests on a wedding day, people are always excited to talk shop or try and talk shop. And they're excited to pose in front of a camera like that. It feels a different level of importance or significance than just an iPhone or even a digital camera because they're a little bit more mainstream.
Yeah.
And then I'm a big fan of like the thought that you have an archive you hold in your hand. Like I return my film negatives to my couples because that's their archive. It's not my personal archive. Like they're photos I loved taking, but like I don't want to like have somebody, you know, I don't want to like Vivian Maier one day and somebody finds a whole storage unit of these negatives that are, you know, that I took, but they're not my story. Which in her case, they are her story. But I'm like, I would rather somebody's great 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 grandchild find their great 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 grandparents' wedding negatives one day. I don't need to find some future. I don't need somebody like down the row from me to be like, who are these people who got married and those people who got married and those people.
Yeah.
And I print out a ton of my work. I'm like staring at it all on my wall right now. But I think it's important that like the physical archive goes back to people because like maybe I'm a little digital wary too. And I'm like, what if something happens to someone's digital archive? Then like at least that physical archive can like always be scanned or printed, hopefully, and like a little safer.
Yeah. So something that crossed my mind is past clients will sometimes come back to us and be like, "Hey, we've lost our DVD." Can you recreate it and send it to us? I always worry, or I don't want to. Maybe this is too negative on the clients, but I think that like this is our job. We know how to keep these things safe for them. And I know that comes at an expense, but there's no better feeling than when a client comes to you from like 10 years ago and goes, I know this is like really a hard ask. Do you happen to have this? And we've like, unless there's like 2 hard drive fails, yes, we do. And we can
Same
be
here.
like, that's a great feeling.
Yes, and I still like my like digital footprint, despite being a mostly analog person, is obscene. Like the amount of time I spend organizing digital files, backing up digital files, paying for different services to have stuff backed up in different ways, on top of individual hard drives, a much larger hard drive. It's no joke, but it's a big responsibility on our part too, because like while clients sign contracts and are in charge of backing up their own stuff, like I think we've all had the experience, like you mentioned, where someone comes to you wanting something or wanting something they've lost. Or it's like there's also that case too where like I've had clients come to me and like they lose somebody who's very important to them. And they're like, hey, like no pressure, but do you happen to have any other photos of this person or anything? And it's like, I'll do my best to do another cull through. And usually there's something. And it's like at the time, maybe I didn't quite realize it because I didn't realize who that person was, or it was a photo that I'm like, you know what, their face might, like, they might not be smiling, or they don't be smiling, but I'm like, maybe something about it is a photo I wouldn't want of myself, so I didn't deliver it. But like after that person is gone, sometimes you want every piece of them.
Yeah.
So I have a lot of respect for that. And then sometimes too, like, you know, I'll learn of something and just try and do that anyways. Like, you know, like I had a client lose a dog after I'd photographed them at home. And I still like, it was very recent after we spent time. And I was like, you know what? I'm usually like not in the business of like sending almost every photo I took, but like, I know that their dog was like their world. So I'm like, before they even ask, I'm going to be like, you don't need to open this. You don't need to do anything with this. But like, in case you want photos of your dog, like I've just put together another folder for you of these, because if it was one of my cats, like I would want that probably, maybe, you know?
Yeah.
It's like we're sometimes like compelled on like the human scale of it, and like in a personal way too. Like I lost my father-in-law only like 5 months after getting married, and like our videographer had already delivered our video. Everything was beautiful. But she happened to have the whole ceremony mic'd. And even though that wasn't what made the cut, she, without even like offering, just delivered these audio files to us after hearing the news. And I think, sorry to go on that tangent, it's like we are keepers of such important things to people, and they don't even realize in that moment how important some of it is sometimes.
Yeah.
So I do keep holding on to the digital I don't want to call it clutter, the digital archive very seriously, but I want the physical archive back in their hands.
Yeah. I do like that you do give them something that's like physical and tangible as well as the prints, because I'm always jealous because obviously we don't, like, all of our things are digital files.
Yeah, but you can still pull like stills from that and like
Could do. I always feel funny pulling stills from things though when I know there's a photographer. So I'm very.
I don't think you should count yourself out on that, because I think sometimes stills are even more beautiful. They're like even more raw and in the moment because there wasn't that like camera awareness because the camera was always on.
That's true.
Yeah.
Maybe I'll give some thought to that.
So what's your thoughts on the hype around shooting film just now? Because it's a lot of people are jumping into it and just buying a point and shoot and being like, I now offer film at this extra cost. What's your thoughts on that?
I was literally joking with a friend about that yesterday in relationship to something else. I was like, this is the same as someone calling themselves a film photographer and all they own is an Olympus stylus. Which, if they're renting other film cameras and using them, that's great. But like, I think, I used to get more cagey about it, or I don't know if cagey is the right word, but like protective about it. But I've also realized too, like, it's not my position to like yuck someone's yum. And also like, maybe that person just photographing on a point and shoot is able to like have wedding packages that are more affordable for certain couples, which that's great. Everyone is entitled to art from their wedding day. Yeah. So like, I definitely used to be a lot more salty about it. At this point though, I'm definitely like, don't charge my rates and just use a point and shoot, because that's like messing up the market.
Yeah.
But I don't think most people who are just doing like a roll of film or 5 rolls, in the package are doing that. And I think on the flip side, it's amazing because like you're seeing like my film lab I send everything to, they just like went through like a big hiring bump. They had to hire more people because so many people are sending film, and it's like, color corrector was like squeezed for time to get everything through. And like, I don't know what other areas they've like amped up their team, but did a big hiring. And then like, you see like, oh my gosh, I'm obsessed with like waiting for the whole like Wide Lux reissue through Jeff Bridges and like Silver Grain Classics. Like every day I'm like waiting for that to happen. I'm horrified of what it's going to cost, but I'm going to do anything I can to get that camera. But I'm like, I don't think if we weren't in this film revival, we would have things like that happening right now. Or it's even like, I recently in the past, like maybe year, I think it's been around a little longer, but like Lomography made a 4x5 Polaroid back, given it's not FP100 pull apart film, but I can use Instax wide on the back of my Polaroid, or on the back of my 4x5, I mean. And it's like, how fun is that like 3D printing, CNC, and like interest in film is allowing all these things to happen. And like you see experimental film stocks happening again and like being widely available through large distributors. And even like some experimental Super 8 is happening again too, where you have smaller companies making their own reissue of like cinematic stocks. And I'm like, how lucky are we? Because when I started my like career as a photographer out of school, I was literally just watching darkrooms close and like watching camera stores close, and like I was buying darkrooms out of their full stock when they were closing, because they're like, good luck getting this processed anywhere. And it's like, there's some things I still mourn. Like last month I shot my very last roll of like Velvia 50, and I'm like, rip, this was fun. We'll never see her again, I guess, unless, Fujifilm decides to have a renaissance too and reissue some of their old film stocks. But I think if anything, like we're so lucky that people are interested. And if anything, I see my role now as like offering information to both like other photographers and couples, and like not being cagey about what I do and what I offer, because we should all aspire to be making great work. And I think you can make great work on a point and shoot or on the Holga. And I think for myself too, I don't feel worried as much about competition and like everyone getting into film now, because I've kind of distinguished myself as like medium format girl. and large format girl too. So it gives me like a different angle where it's like the ones who like get it, really get it. And I feel like those are the couples that like click from the very start. But then some couples I need to like, you know, they will be like, oh, we don't really think we like film because they think it's gritty. And then I drop the bomb on them that every photo on my homepage and my website is all film. And that kind of blows their mind.
Yeah. There's definitely some ideas that people have about certain formats and stuff that, you know, can be shifted just by. Yeah, there was, so that idea of poo-pooing other people who are getting into film, such an interesting take. And so I'm going to go off on a little tangent, right?
Yeah.
I'm a gamer, so I like when new technology comes out, right? And I hear this thing all the time of people going, "Oh, but I don't want to. I never get the first of this, or I never do this, or you know." I was like, without people investing in the initial idea or concept of a thing, of a product, and obviously that relates to film. Now people are reusing film again. This is how you bring back the thing that was lost by people bringing it back into the popular thing so that companies can make money and then build these new technologies and all that kind of stuff. But without that initial investment, you don't have these cool things that you like to do and have fun with. So, yeah.
I totally agree. I mean, I even think about like Cinestill, one of my favorite film brands that's newer. Like they make a 4x5 film now. And it's like that wouldn't happen if the interest wasn't there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And okay, I know people are thinking, oh yeah, but that raises the prices on film cameras. I'm like, yes. But again, these companies need to make the money to be able to do these things. So, you know.
I also think too, in regards to that, the like price of film cameras, I think about probably how many less film cameras there are too now. So it's like to get your hands on, you know, like I actually recently had to replace my Hasselblad body. I had to buy a new body 2 weeks ago. Mine broke and I'm like, I'm overnighting a new one. I'm like, I can't live without her. So it's like the one I had for 14 years, just like it had been CLA'd a few times. It was because these things are old. This camera's from like the 1950s.
Yeah.
And, you know, interest is higher, but I think inventory is also lower because think about how long these things have like survived. And if they've been taken really good care of, I don't think it's that different than buying like a classic car or something like that, where it's like, it's not like you can just go to Target and pick one up, or like you can't even like walk into like a camera store and pick up a lot of these cameras. Like there's a couple, but not many.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
So you mentioned packaging and then Simon talked about pricing. Where, like, how do you structure your packages and what you offer your couples? Tell us a bit about that.
Yeah. Oh, I love this topic because I kind of, I wouldn't say radicalized because I'm not the only one doing this, but last year, so when I was booking last year, so this would have been in 2023, basically I made the decision for almost all, like midway through last year and then every wedding this year, I've moved away from hours because I don't think anyone should be obligated to make the moments worth photographing happen within a certain window. So my packages are literally just set up by, are we spending the whole day together, or are we spending the whole weekend together, or multiple days beyond the weekend together? And do I get to sleep in my own bed, or do I not get to sleep in my own bed that night? Like, am I traveling or am I close to home? Like at this point, I really want to make the decision clear for my couples too. Like I feel like most people, most potential clients, when they're talking to me, it's not usually a pricing conversation between me and like 5 other people. It's more of like a vibes conversation and artistically what fits and vision wise what fits. Because for me, it's not like you can negotiate an hour less or something, because I've learned from the past, I would just stay and keep photographing because stuff was happening that like, if it was my wedding day, I would want record of, or like the vibe was still wonderful, or people were still wanting to be photographed. And it's like, why would I leave? Or like, if something's running behind and my time is up, like how crappy would that be if they were excited to have photos of the cake being cut? But I'm like, oh, I gotta go. My time is over. it's also like I'm not going to go do something else that day, even if someone has me for just like 6 hours. It's not like, oh, time to go to my second wedding today.
Yeah.
So I've really done away with hours, and it's really about spending quality time together. And it also too, I used to be like, I promise this many photos, but at this point I'm like, know that like every photo that is good you will have, or like every photo that I would want if I was in your shoes, like you will also have. But my galleries are a lot smaller, I think, than other photographers, like probably 400 to 500 photos for a wedding, sometimes more if it's the whole weekend. And it's like, I'm not, while my work is very documentary, I'm there, I'm present. I'm actually a big fan of like, if you want a big family photo list, like lay it on me. It's so rare you have everyone you like with you for the day and you're all dressed up. Like, I don't mind if you, like this past weekend, I think I had about 50 photos I had to take on a portrait list, but I'm like, how lucky it is that you love that many people and they're all here for you today. Like, let's just roll through it.
That is, by the way, that's an incredible number of group shots to do.
That was the biggest I've had to date.
Yeah. How long did it take, just out of curiosity?
Probably like 25 minutes, because luckily everyone was good listeners and everyone knew. It was like right after the ceremony, the lighting was perfect, and it was basically like both sides of the family and some big groups and then broken up into smaller groups. So everyone knew to stay and listen, and everyone knew the reward was going to cocktail hour. And this couple too had thought they would miss their whole cocktail hour. And I'm like, no way. That's the best part of your wedding day. We're getting you there. And they're like, wow, Autumn, like you got us here faster than we thought. And I'm like, I told you.
I mean, that is an incredible amount of time to do that many groups.
It was
a great job. Well, holy shit.
Thank you.
That's incredible.
We were moving and grooving, and everyone kind of knew like who was on deck and what was happening. And luckily, parents were participating, family members, getting everyone moved in and out. But I was proud of myself for that.
Yeah, you should. I mean, we've worked alongside many other photographers, and their list has been like 10, and they've taken double that. Like, it's been insane sometimes. Maybe not. Is that an over-exaggeration? Am I being too crazy?
Wee bit exaggeration.
Maybe,
but it's usually down to the drunk guest being missing.
There's always.
It's not always the photographer.
That's right. Okay, but you do have to kind of pin everyone down before they tottle off somewhere.
Yes, I have learned like post ceremony is it like good luck wrangling people during reception for group photos.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
as soon as they get the chance to go to the bar, that's when you start losing people.
Yeah. So I don't know. I went on that tangent because I guess like my work in some ways is, it's unique, but I'm also still here for the things that people do want to have, even if it's like not the photograph that like drives me personally or the photograph that like ends up in a portfolio piece.
Yeah, because I mean, someone listening might be thinking, Autumn takes other collaborators so that she can do the fun stuff, but you don't just do. Well, I mean,
I put myself fully in charge of the portrait list because I am like, if there is one thing that this couple has asked of me, it is like these people they have taken the time to write down. And I'm like, I am making sure I get them all those photos with those people.
Hell yeah.
Yeah.
Awesome.
And
that's when I let my collaborators go have fun. I'm like, you go to cocktail hour, you photograph everything that's happening. Like, go flirt with people that are dressed nice, take their photo. But like, you go have fun, you take a breather, sit down, hide somewhere, enjoy some AC. Let me take on this like wrangling of like the cats scenario.
Yeah. I like the approach to pricing because like I get why people do the hourly coverage and have set numbers because it's sometimes easy for people, but ultimately as a photographer, we're the expert and we know how much coverage they're going to need. So instead of having that conversation of, you might want to upgrade to 8 hours, just say, I'll be here as long as you need.
Yeah.
That's the approach we've always taken.
Yeah. Because sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt.
No, I didn't mean to interrupt. I was saying like a lot of other sectors of photography and videography use day rates. Like almost all commercial work is a day rate. And for some reason, like, I don't know why photography hasn't fully gotten there yet.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I know there's, I suppose I'm hearing other people who like do allotments in my head. They're like, well, I only work allotments are like 3-4 hours max. So charging a day rate doesn't really make sense.
But are they going to do anything else that day? And it's not saying you need to like make your rate suddenly double because you're accounting for 8 hours. It's like, just be like, I'll be with you as long as this takes.
Yeah.
And that's what it is.
Who are we? Was it Martina? She does 90 elopements. I suppose when you get to that many, that was last year.
Maybe you do need to.
Maybe you do need to adjust for some. So I suppose your packaging definitely depends on your client and who you're aiming for. Because we have had this conversation quite a lot. And yes, we have, but we only do like 20, 25 weddings a year. So yeah, we're there early morning to late at night.
Yeah.
And we're, like you said, we're not going anywhere.
No.
And even if we were to do an elopement, it would be in the Highlands, and it takes 2 hours to get there. Again, same thing, and we're just there for as much adventuring as people want.
Yeah.
And that's
That's like the story of my life too, where it's even like if the client doesn't want you there until like 1 p.m., let's say, like from the moment you wake up that morning, you're prepping, you're getting ready, you're driving.
Yeah.
So I'm like, that's the day.
That's the day. We're going to interrupt this podcast to bring you an advertisement for PickTime. Our buddies at PickTime, we love PickTime. If you want to elevate your business, PickTime's maybe the way to do it.
It's an online gallery delivery service.
It's a really good looking one, which is initially how we got into the service. It just looks better than all the other kind of platforms that we personally use.
Yeah. We've over time got to know the owners, got to know the people behind it. Lovely people, great support system there as well.
There's just so many tools at your fingertips with PickTime, but the marketing and the blogs and the slideshow features.
Yeah, there's so much more than just a gallery delivery service. You've got all those things that Simon was talking about. You can create your own blog from it. You can create slideshows. One new feature that I really love is the vendor network. It's where you can use AI to curate a gallery for a specific supplier. So you could use AI to gather all the photos of the flowers and send them to the florist, and they would have that gallery specific just for them.
It's kind of a mind-blowing feature.
Yeah.
And we might as well be taking advantage of AI before the uprising and it starts taking advantage of us. So let's just all bear that in mind.
Yeah, and not to mention the built-in store, and that way you can just make more money while also having a nice, aesthetically pretty gallery.
Yeah. And if you want to sign up today, you can get a free month if you use Perspective at checkout.
Yeah.
So if you want to test out for free for a month, go for it.
Take your business to the next level with PickTime. What does your booking process look like from couple inquire with you?
Yeah.
How do you sort of guide them through to signing the contract?
Yeah. Oh, I love this. So people find me usually by way of Google, sometimes Instagram, sometimes recently Reddit and Pinterest are like my new ways, which thank goodness for that, I guess. But we hop on the phone together. I do really like if both people can hop on the phone with me, but more and more people are busy. So in that case, I will have 2 separate conversations because I want to meet each person, because I want it to be like a resounding yes from all of us. Like I want it to be clear that like we mesh, that like they understand my process. They understand that it's like very film first is what I call my process. That they understand that I'm there to be present and document their day. And it's less about going through a checklist or something traditional of the motions there. But like, yes, I will be prepared, and like, I will know what time everything is happening. And like, yes, I do have like a note stock in my phone of what's happening, but things might be different. So we hop on a call. I send over my pricing before we hop on a call, because I do start at a rate where I feel like I know I'm not for everybody in that regard, which is a bummer. I wish I could be for everybody. But after they get my packages, I have 2 decks, one for if it's local and one for if it's not local. Hop on a call. After that call, I send them over a custom quote. So if it turns out like they're interested in Super 8, I'll add that into pricing for them. They'll look at that. Or if it turns out like they definitely don't want multiple days because maybe they're not even doing a rehearsal or anything like that, then I'm like, let's just remove that option so you're not going to be fatigued. Then they either accept or don't. And at that point, I send over a contract and I do a 25% retainer. And I like to kind of be paid throughout the course of getting to know each other. So like my first retainer, I obviously hold on to because that's good. And that ends up being taxes often. Then I have a second payment. That's when I purchase all their film. And then the rest is to like pay myself, pay collaborators, travel, all of that thing.
Yeah.
What is what is your starting price to do just a normal wedding?
Yeah, for a normal wedding where I'm doing film for a single day, my starting price at this point is about 12,000.
Okay, cool. And how much is like a roll of? Do you even charge by the roll? Like what?
I don't charge by the roll. So for me, that pricing is like all inclusive. And I guess, 13,000 is like a better number. I've been toying around with what it means to photograph on my own, but like 13,000 is usually a single day. This is like if I'm sleeping at home, like I'm not traveling, and then like 15,000 for a multi-day. But for me, that gives me the bandwidth to shoot like as much film as I want and to shoot like as much large format as I want or medium format or there's times where like there's a lot going on the wedding day and I'm like, maybe I'm shooting a little less film, but now I can afford to bring an assistant with to like help make the day flow even better.
Yeah.
So that pricing really allows me to like be playful with my offerings.
Yep.
Yeah.
That's cool.
We've not really touched on the Super 8 stuff yet. So
yeah,
tell us about how that incorporates into your offering and what you deliver from that.
Yeah. So my first time documenting on Super 8, I had a couple ask me, this was my very first year of being a photographer, and it's okay. I can say this, Anna and Johnny, I love you if you're listening. They love me back. They had interest in Super 8 because I think they either did some Super 8 or grew up with it. And me, my first year of being a photographer, full-time, weddings, I was like, oh, of course I can do that. I didn't even own a Super 8 camera. I was like, yep, I'll do that for you.
Okay.
So luckily that contract was like almost a year out. So I had time. I was like, okay, I have a year to learn this thing, to do this thing. So I started bringing it on my own trips. And then a couple of my couples were super lucky during that first year because I'd be like, you're getting a free Super 8 video for your wedding. Yeah. Well, I wouldn't tell them what I'm doing. And then they'd be like, what is that? I'm like, oh, it's a Super 8. I'll send you the footage. Because I like had to practice for this one wedding that I knew it was like on the line for, if that makes sense.
Okay.
And I found in playing with the Super 8 camera, I actually really loved it because I never took a video class while in school, and I'm bummed about that because Premiere is a place where I still get pretty lost sometimes. I enjoy it, but it's definitely like my biggest learning curve. Every time I learn something new that I'm in there. Thank God for YouTube. But I realized it was like, because I'd have people ask for video too, like digital video, and I'm like, I'm not your girl. Like, I'm going to send over some people that I think would be fantastic for that. But like, that is such like a beautiful and different skill set and like camera build than my own. But Super 8, I realized like allowed me to tell these stories in the same way on film where you're working with this like finite resource, right? You're working with 2.5 to 3 minutes of footage at a time. And I do bring 2 cameras with me to wedding days just to be super safe, but I'm typically only shooting on 1 camera unless there's a big reason why I'd want 2 point of views and to maybe send one of my collaborators off with one during a different moment.
Right.
But it really allows me to tell this like visual story that's more about feeling than crispiness. Cause I'm like, you're not going to get a drone shot. You're not even going to like, get someone's like super crystal clear facial expression potentially. I mean, that said, I've like upgraded cameras since, and like I'm on a Nikon R10 at this point, and it does a great job. Like it's much more crisp than my very first Canon 310 XL. But for me, it allows me to like tell this story that's like more about like memories or vignettes than about like a proper like record of day, if that makes sense. Like I would not consider my Super 8 films the historical record of what happened. They are like the vibe pulse of what happened on a day.
Yeah. Was this your first film? Was that Seminary Hill?
It was, yeah.
Anna and Jam. Okay.
Yeah, are you on my site
I'm
now?
watching it right now.
That was my very first one.
Okay, cool. And obviously you enjoyed it enough to offer that now. That's exciting.
Yeah, I mean, really, when I go on my own personal trips with my partner, the primary camera I bring at this point is sometimes just a Super 8. I'm like, that's what I want to like look back on from a trip.
That is fascinating. I've never shot any super video.
Really?
Me neither.
Yep.
Yeah.
Never. I've
But
only
you're
ever
in such
shot
a beautiful
digital.
place for it. You should try it.
I mean, maybe. But if I dare say to Greg, can you buy me another camera? I think he might quit on me, if I'm honest.
Oh man, but Super 8s, like those are cameras that I think you can still, I'm always shocked at what I find them for because people don't fully grasp their value in some ways, like film still cameras.
Yeah.
And they're just so much fun.
I mean, what you've got here is pretty cool.
I mean, that first video too, I did no sequencing. I was just like, oh, this is the order it was shot on the roll-in.
Yeah.
Yeah, I haven't checked out any of your other films other than when I was on your portfolio. Was it Molly and Corey?
Oh my gosh, yes.
You open with that film.
Yes.
You can definitely tell. So it's definitely a different camera. You can tell
It is a much better camera. No offense to my very first one.
I mean, even your camera work is slightly different. You're a lot more, not steady, but you're for what I've seen so far of these shots. Like there was a couple of shots in the first one where it was just like you held them for like a second.
Yeah, you're like what's happening here?
You're like, what happened? Which was, I mean, fun, but yeah, interesting. So, and obviously with these sort of films, you don't need to worry about sound. So they're kind of like a great alternative if you want to dabble in video, because sound, as everyone knows, is the bane of everyone's life.
Well,
it's the hardest thing to do.
Yes, that's like the other thing is like I have like mic'd people up before, and luckily like I have, and luckily it has not made the cut into any Super 8 videos because like once people see them, they're like, no, actually, I don't want that. And then I'm like, great, I'm just going to send you your audio footage so you have the audio of your ceremony, like enjoy it.
Oh,
but
interesting. Okay.
I would be so overwhelmed the moment I had to figure out how to equalize that.
Yeah.
And I've like played around with it a little bit so I know how to do it, but I don't know how to do it efficiently, if that makes sense. Like I'm probably taking way too many steps to do that. So, but I also too, I think you wouldn't want like the hi-fi audio experience with the lo-fi video experience. It wouldn't make sense.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like your brain, I think, would break over it. It would make no sense for it to be like crystal clear over this, like, Super 8 negatives, like the tiniest thing in the world. And the fact I do 2K scans for those is bananas.
It's also got you don't have that pressure of having to make your formats look the same. That is something that we are going through at the moment because we're starting to lean into photography. I'm sure our listeners have heard us say that a lot. And that is the hardest thing, is to make your film look like your stills, because it just takes so much time.
Well, you should also like treat it like the way that I like marry my digital and film work too. And I know that's like two different mediums, film versus stills, but like think of them as like sisters, not twins. And I think that gives a lot of freedom.
Yeah.
Interesting.
So what is your approach with your grading then when you get your... Well, you said you scan yourself, don't you?
Not anymore. I use Indie Film Lab to process and scan my film. I love
So
them.
when you get your scans back and you've got your digitals, putting a gallery together, you're just trying to have them complement each other rather than look the same?
Yeah, like I'm not trying to smoke and mirrors anyone. Like I love my film cameras, but I also love my digital camera. Like I love the colors of the R5. I love that Sigma art lens on it in particular, and the 28-70 is beautiful too. And for me, it's like, why would I why would I try to make my digital work match my film work when the digital work is so beautiful in and of itself and has this quality that's like, it's very similar to like how I choose my film cameras on a wedding day too. Like some of them are meant to be like very crisp and like smooth, while other are like meant to be very dreamy and creamy. While like I do pull out an Olympus stylus someday, so no shade, and like those are meant to like feel like you're drunk with friends at a bar. And it's like, why would I try to make my digital work look like anything else than it being this like beautiful digital work taken on a nice camera with nice lenses? And then like color wise too, like green is kind of like my North Star. And I'm sure you two feel that way too, where you're based. Like even if I'm not photographing somewhere very green, it's the color I think of all the time. And I've learned to love it, where I know a lot of photographers and videographers, anyone who does color grading can get very stressed out by green, because green is not kind to like trying to get a true white or true neutral. But I like really embrace greens. So for me, I'm like, as long as my greens are like honest in my digital, and like for the film stocks I'm choosing, like every film stock has a different, this is what a baseline green looks like. Like it's not always honest green, but it like might be Kodak Gold's honest green. So I'm like, as long as like that's my guidepost, I think that's what keeps my work really, really consistent.
Yeah.
People love my greens.
Yeah. For the longest time, we were obliterating our greens just because
We all were.
They can. Well, yeah, I suppose it was the time. This was like a few years ago, but in the way I justified it was because you're trying to make something look a certain way, and it doesn't, like, you don't have control. You don't have lighting control. You don't have you don't have any control really on a wedding day, apart from where you place yourself. But that really affects the look and, to an extent, the feel of the visuals. And so you would be really aggressive with your color grade so that you felt like you had some more control. Because I mean, that's the only thing you can do, like control. Well, you can. That's not the only form of control. That's crazy. You can add music, and editing is a whole thing. But yeah, on that visual level.
Yeah, green can be oppressive too. Think about like hiking in the woods. Like it can be really overwhelming, where it's like, I think when the trees are like barren out here, it's a different feeling than when they're full.
Yeah.
But I think green is beautiful.
It's taken me a long time to appreciate greens. But yeah. The Sony's a funny one with greens as well. Because in I remember upgrading to the Sony's, and I was just like, whoa, those greens are not right. They are aggressively funny, which was interesting because obviously shooting a Lomans in the Scottish Hills is very, very of that kind of green. So you had to be like pulling that saturation down a bit.
Yeah, I was noticing that on my collaborators. One of my collaborators is on a Sony. One's been playing around with a Fuji, mostly Canon. But I was looking at the Sony work this week, and I'm like, oh wow, full sun and green. I had my work cut out for me here.
Oh damn! Where were they shooting?
They were shooting with me on an A9, and their greens are just very different than my Canon greens, and not by their own making, just by Sony like really saturating them. And the fact it was like full sun too in green, I was like, oh wow, this is electric. Yes, indeed. Yeah. Which is so funny to me, because I feel like it's so like neutral and smooth everywhere else. Like there's parts of like this Sony work that I'm feeling even pulled to. I don't think I'll do a full swap, but like her skin tones are beautiful on the Sony, like almost out of the starting gate. But I'm like, why is the green lime green? What is happening here?
Yeah. I'm so funny about greens, but I've learned to let go of the perfectionist cinematographer notion I had. But yeah. Anyway.
So after you've edited, you deliver the negatives to the couple via post. Yeah. What else are you delivering? Online gallery? Is there any albums included or anything?
So I deliver an online gallery to them that's like organized sequentially, but usually like kind of fun sequentially, if that makes sense. Like film and digital is interspersed with each other typically, unless there's a reason to like separate it out or call out certain stuff. but organized in a fun way. It's not always just getting ready ceremony. Sometimes it is, but sometimes it's like party people, or marriage is fun was a recent subheader for a section that just like really made sense in this moment with this wedding that like had like burlesque clowns at it, and the whole day was very fun.
Cool.
And I'm like, yeah, marriage is fun. Like, I think that's what this section of the gallery should be titled. The negatives go back to them with a small selection of artist prints, is what I call them. And it's like 5 to 10 inkjet photos that I make here at home until maybe someday there'll be darkroom prints, because I am in the process of trying to build that in my basement.
Okay.
Oh, that's exciting.
Yeah, that'll be at least a year out, I think, from offering that for client work, and no desire to develop my own work. I love my lab. I might develop black and white 4x5 at home to save money, but the rest will go to the lab still. But I deliver like 5 to 10 photos, which in my opinion, like tell the story of their day, the feeling of their day. And that's something I've started offering this year in particular, where I'm like, you know what? This day is for them, but in some ways it's a little bit for me. And I like want them to know the way in which I saw their day. So sometimes it's like, it might be a portrait of them, but it might also be like a portrait of like this really beautiful like bush. Like I'm looking at one in front of me right now where it's like just all of these roses that make sense on this bush because like the place smelled like it. So those get delivered in the box as well to the couple.
Yeah. What's your digital delivery like? What do you use?
I use Pixie Set to deliver things online. Okay. I know you're PicTime people, and I think if don't tell Pixie Set this, but if I had started with PicTime, I would be in there, but now it feels too late to convert it all over.
We have spoken to a few people, and it's slightly easier now, I think, to convert over, but it is a little bit tricky.
It's daunting.
Yeah,
it's daunting.
It's daunting.
It's change.
Yeah.
But sorry to your lovely sponsor there.
Oh no, it's fine. I'm sure they don't mind. What if
I said something crazy like I use Dropbox? Just kidding.
I want to know, to any of our listeners out there, if you're using Dropbox, I want to hear from you.
It might still be, yeah.
Please.
Me too. Could you imagine?
Oh god. Hey, we've all got to start somewhere.
Yeah.
And Dropbox for some is just easy, I suppose, but it definitely lacks joie de vivre, let's say.
Yeah. Or Facebook album. Who delivers via Facebook album?
Wow.
Surely no one. That cannot be. Oh god. Right, okay. I didn't realize this at the time, but of the time of doing my research and all your work and looking through your portfolio and all that kind of good stuff, that you did mentoring, even though it's right on your website.
Oh, what? Yeah.
So I'm intrigued to get your thoughts on, like, if you were to know one thing earlier in your career, what would it be?
Can I give two answers? Can I give a practical one and an art one?
Yes.
Practical one, even if you're literally only charging like $100 per shoot, which like don't do that, but like get a bookkeeper. Get a bookkeeper from the very beginning. Even if you're like, this is part-time, invest that little bit of money each month to have somebody else make sure you are totally above board with everything. Mm-hmm. And that they can also help you figure out like how to pay yourself and like also help inform you like what you should be charging based on expenses. Get a bookkeeper. Yes. That's my practical advice. It took me like 2 years of like crying every time I would do like taxes and accounting to hire someone. And I'm like, I should have done that 2 years ago. We all learn these things. And then from a like art stance, like find community and make art with them. Like don't exist in a vacuum, and don't like only have heroes, like also have peers whose work you look to and admire and hold your own work up against, and like ask them to be honest with your work too. Like exist in community, and like that community can be people who are like literally in your town, they're your friend, maybe they're in your household, but they can also be like online too. Like find a community of people that like can hold you up and inspire you, who are accessible who you're not like existing in the shroud of mystery, like being like, oh, I wish my work could be like this. I wish my work could be like this. Like find people that you can talk to about how they're making this great work.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I would agree with that.
I'd agree with both of them.
Yeah. That's great. Yeah, it's funny. You're not the first person to mention the accountant.
Yeah, it's been getting mentioned a few times recently.
They're like, we know it's not sexy, but
it just makes sense to set yourself up properly and make sure things are done right from the start. Because if you don't, then
it makes it easier for everyone too. It's like they help you with taxes. They can make sure anyone you're collaborating with gets paid out. They can remind clients invoices are due. It's like they're amazing. They can do so much.
Yeah.
Yeah. So much better than just, oh, money's in my account. I'll do whatever with it. And I mean, I'm pretty sure like. Is that on you go?
Oh, I was just saying, and a retirement. Like set up a retirement. Like think about future you.
Yeah. Yes, absolutely. Please do that. So, do you have a pension?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Good. I knew that. Did you? I did. Did I? Did I know that? I don't know.
So
but have a pension.
We said we're not shooting down those people that are jumping into film. So if you're talking to a mentoree, and they were just starting film, what's like the first thing you would say to them, either to go and research or where to start?
Yeah. I would tell them one, like photograph in your personal life before you offer it to a client. And when you offer it to a client for the first time, like get in the flow of just doing it and then offering it. Like I'm not saying like free labor, but charge enough that you can shoot maybe like 5 rolls at a wedding, and the couple, like most people don't technically know, or maybe they'll see that and you'll be like, yeah, I'm just doing some B-roll on this. And like get in the process of like delivering that and making sure that workflow works for you. I'm not saying shoot a whole wedding half and like only charge for like the digital and not the film, but like make sure that like you like it and like how that workflow goes. And then I would say like get a camera that's easy to take with you, that you want to take photos with. And like I would say for a lot of people that probably is like an Olympus stylus, or it's a simple SLR, and then the Holga. I always recommend the Holga. Is just like if you really want to embrace the not knowing of film and the fact that like it's hard for many of us to get into a darkroom now, I think the Holga is like the closest film camera that has that like feeling of magic and unpredictability. And I'd also say go to a very good lab from the start. Like go to a lab that can give you feedback on your work, that can help you grow, that can let you know if there's issues with your camera or how you're exposing. And it goes like a really long way, I think, to work closely with your lab.
Yeah.
Yes. Do you have any advice for people who want to print at home?
Yeah, I would say...
Or print and scan, I should say. Scan and print.
Yeah.
Like...
I'm not the scanning girl at home anymore. Like I would say there are so many people offering like expert courses out there. And like I'm part of a couple online film communities actually, but one called Gather Around Film that has some really great resources in there for home scanning. Not at all presented by me, because I am team I love my lab that scans my work. But I'd say if you're going to scan at home, just like anything, allow there to be time for a learning curve. Same with learning to shoot film. Know that if you take amazing digital photos, don't be discouraged if your first couple of rolls of film or dozens of rolls aren't the work you want. It just means you have a great idea of what you want, and it's just going to take time to get there. Yeah. But for printing at home, I'd actually say the same thing. Like, get a decent printer. Get a printer that's coming with 7 to 10 different ink heads. Like, make sure you're working with multiple colors. But also know there's a learning curve, and that similar to finding your right digital setup, your right film setup, you may need to go through a couple of different types of paper, a couple of different printers to find the one that speaks to you and helps you get the work that you want personally. And just play around, and thank goodness when it comes to digital printing, so many of these companies sell sample packs with 5 to 10 sheets. Go in big and getting sample packs, or find a friend who's also printing at home and offer to split a pack if it's pricier, so you can both play with one. And find the time to find the paper that speaks to you, and know that certain papers are great for black and white work, some are great for color work, and it really comes down to personal choice and aesthetic there.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Do you
And
personally
if
have
your
a favorite?
printer, do I like
Yeah.
favorite paper?
Yeah, for like black or black and white and
Yeah,
versus color.
I do. Can I grab my stack so I'm reading the right name of paper?
Please do.
Wow.
And while you do that, I'm going to grab my charger.
Greg's. Our listeners are probably like, why do you never plug in your laptop? Why do you do this to yourself? Greg has like 3 cables running in and out of his computer. I'm just
I love that.
Nothing.
That's a story
Hanging
of my
out.
life too. So for black and white work,
online and everything.
I'm mostly using the
Ilford.
Ilford Gallery
Yeah.
cotton textured paper. It's very thick. It has a beautiful texture to it. So the tonality you get with a black and white print, like it's gorgeous. Like your grays are really nice. It's a photo you want to hold in your hands. Not amazing for color work, in my opinion. It gets too saturated. There's like too many places for the ink to go, if that makes sense.
Yeah,
So I prefer something that I still prefer, like this one is Canson's Platine fiber rag. So it's still a fiber paper, but it's not as textured, and it's an ultra smooth fiber paper. So this one does not have like as much of a texture to it, but it allows the colors to pop, like they're almost coming off the page. Versus I like my black and white work to sink in. I mean, I feel like these are not good. I'm showing these on like a bad internet connection, but like black and white on the fiber rag, it's like it's showing up a lot lighter than it is, but it's just like there's a lot of texture in here.
Yeah.
And it
you
kind
can
of
hear it when you rub
paper.
when you rub your fingers over the paper. You can hear the texture.
Yeah, it's a lot of texture versus like color work. Still on a really nice fiber paper, but it is like a semi-gloss fiber paper, and the colors like come off the paper versus sink into the paper. Which I think for color you want it to like come at you versus like you kind of want the black and white to be softer. Or at least for me, I want to like go into it.
I'm probably like that as well. Yeah.
Cool.
That's very cool. Yeah.
Will we pull up some images to look at?
Oh yes. Yeah. Show and tell.
Wow. Show and tell.
Yes, this is the episode of showing and telling everything. Yeah, this is great. So I've gone through your portfolio and picked out some images that I really like of yours, or that I want to hear the story behind. I actually can't remember because I feel like I pulled out these ages ago, and we've just been having you. Like we got the times wrong, so we missed out on
the time wrong.
Thank
you for the royal we there, but it was me. It was me.
Like, look, you are in the States. There's a time difference, and that can be hard to like not get your head around. But like when you're reading something and you're so used to reading it a certain way, and then you're like, oh shit, right? Yes, different times. Anyway. Right, so. This image is actually on your. Is it on your? It's on your website. It's on the homepage.
It's on my homepage. Which
it's on your homepage.
I caught a glimpse at like all the images you chose. Like Simon, you chose like all my North Stars, or like what I call them. You chose like my images that are like why I do what I do, like the work that I'm like. That's it.
Well, that's exciting. Okay, well, this is good. So I really like this image. Again, there's this softness to your work that obviously comes from manually focusing everything. But it gives me a feeling, and it just adds to that kind of relaxed vibe, as well as
Thank you.
I also like, and this might sound really weird, but the chromatic aberration here, the reds that are popping through the window, mixed with her glasses and the sofa. I know that's a bizarre thing to pull out, but I feel like it's a subtle balancing.
It's the right thing.
Okay, so tell me about this image.
Well, I want to start with like the chromatic aberration, like that's like the whole point of why I chose this film stock. I'm shooting on Cinestill here. I'm shooting on Cinestill. I want to say I had 400D in there. I don't think this is 800. So Cinestill like really has this like beautiful like halation to it, like glowiness that happens with this film stock. I'm obsessed with them. And I knew this room existed. So I guess backing up to like going into a wedding day without an ego or preconceived notions, I had gone to this venue and I knew this room existed because I took photos with this same couple in this room when we were visiting their site, their venue.
Yeah.
And we had so much fun in this pink room because it's a room, and where I'm standing looking at Darby here, there's a mirror behind me. So when they're sitting on the sofa, they can see themselves too. Not where she's looking right now, but like, it's a room where it's very small. Like it's literally like maybe 6 feet across, 8 feet across. Probably like 8 feet across. But we had already had like really sweet memories in this room. And I'm like, how fun is it to go back on the wedding day and take more photos in this exact spot, just goofing around, having this like sweet time together, because those were like my favorite photos from our time together before their wedding. So it felt really special to go back and take photos there on their wedding day. And for me, I'm never actually like overly posy by any means. I think Darby had either was in the process of putting these glasses on because I was about to have Ollie come be on the sofa too, her partner. But I love this kind of like backlit silhouette, but there's a mirror behind me, which is why she does have some light on the front of her as well. And she's in white, and just her dress was very satiny. So there's some very fun bounced light going on. Yeah. And this was medium format work on the Pentax. And I like knew that if I manually focused this opposed to leaning into the autofocus, it would like leave me with some of it being a little sharp, but the rest being really soft. And I also like this angle where I'm just like, just the tiniest bit above her. So you see everything going. I think she looks so beautiful here. Like I didn't give this to them in their sneak peek. This is one of the photos actually that is being presented to them when I give them their negatives in person next week as one of like my artist prints. But I remember when this photo did finally make the rounds, like Darby's partner, Ollie, loved it immediately. And Darby loved it immediately. And I remember my husband came in the room when I was editing this and he's like, that's beautiful. And I'm like, I know, like, I wish I had this photo of myself on my wedding day.
Yeah. So when was this wedding, sorry?
This one was so recent. This was April 26th of this year.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
That was the burlesque clown wedding.
Oh, right.
Oh, was
okay.
it?
Yes, they have a part of their gallery called Marriage is Fun, where they had been married for approximately 10 minutes, and then the photos from that 10 minutes later are in there.
So you're delivering
That's amazing.
the artist prints and negatives in person. Is that something you try and do if they are local to you?
That is this year's goal. Everyone who's in the Hudson Valley, New York City, or Vermont will be subjected to going out to dinner with me or coffee. And my goal will be to reminisce about this perfect day together and to go through, a small selection of prints together. And I just don't want like the circle to end at like their wedding day or even when I like digitally deliver a gallery. Like I think there's something really beautiful about like, ideally I want to maintain relationships with all my couples well into the future. And there's many I have, both professionally and personally. But I think there's something beautiful about like closing this loop, being like, here's this beautiful thing we have like collaborated on together for the last year and a half. Like every conversation we had, every email led to me handing you this box.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So they've got all the images in the digital gallery. It's just a case of this physical thing being handed over, yeah.
Mm-hmm. By the way, I just want to say that your SEO work on your images is absolutely on point. I just want to say this.
Thank you.
Every image that I pause on, the file name comes up for the image, and it's you have spent a lot of time making sure that your data is good there.
Thank you for that. That means the world. I panicked when TikTok started, and I'm like, I can't learn that. That is too complicated. So I went all in on the SEO game because I'm like, there might be a day where there's no social media, and I want people to find me. And I am increasingly finding my couples aren't on social media, and this is how they find me if it's not their planner. Yeah. So thank you for recognizing that hard work.
No, yeah, it's good. Next image, Gregory. By the way, for our listeners out there, Greg's name is never Gregory.
No, it's just Simon's pet name for me.
I like this. Oh my gosh, another one of my North Star Photos.
So I like this, and it's interesting because usually when I like a black and white image, I like to see like really dark blacks. But this image doesn't really offer that kind of darkness. It's kind of all grey, and I'm assuming it's from this dress, which because of the motion blur, you've got like these little spindly things coming off. I don't exactly know what's causing all these lines, other than if there's like jewelry on the dress. I mean, maybe there could be. So I don't know. The motion plays very well. I like the kind of like off angle vibe to it. And I like the fact that she's not dead center, which might be a go-to. I'm just going to place everyone in dead center because it looks nice. Wes Anderson type vibe. Like, oh. So I like that with all the softness coming in. It's just a really nice image. Can you tell me more about this and what you're going for?
Absolutely. Doesn't Carrie just look like a literal angel there? Like, I look at this photo and I also am like, she just looks so beautiful and so like herself. And similar to that previous photo, it's not like it's a spot on facial features, anything, but you get like the essence of person. Technically, this was taken on a Contax G1 with, I want to say probably the 50mm lens, but it might be the 28 actually, or the 45, but I think it's the 28. And the flash was not recycling fast enough, as you can see from this photo, which is how we have the drag here, because it also started with her arms in the air and going down, because we have digital proof of what happened in this moment from my collaborator.
Okay. Interesting.
And I was just a little too slow, but this is like kind of why I love film, even when you can't trust it, because I remember after taking this photo being like, oh shoot, that's not what I intended to take. And there is a much more crisp version of this as well, where I did it again once the flash was recycled, but it didn't have the same feeling as this one had. And I'm on HP5, one of my favorite black and white films, and shooting at a notoriously dark venue. And this day had been like one of those days where it just rained all day, and all day we were waiting for the rain to break. So there was that like feeling, but this was like post reception. This was an after party dress. And I think there was that moment of sweet release of like the day had happened and everything was perfect, even though it wasn't what was planned. And I feel like you see that ease and relax on Carrie in this photo in particular.
When was this in the day? Did you say
this was probably like 11 p.m.
Okay.
Indoors.
Yeah. Nice. You know, it's funny now that I think back to my jaunt down film lane. I think most of my images that I actually liked were when I got the film back and I was like, oh, that's a mishap.
Yeah.
But it's made it's given this different vibe that I wasn't expecting. And it's like a pleasant mistake.
Yes. Yes.
I really like that about film. You don't tend to get it a lot with digital. Depends on your method of shooting. Sometimes I can do that because like I said, my technique is to move a lot and take loads of images. Sometimes you get fun happenstance.
Yeah.
Yeah, and this was a happenstance, but a good one.
Yeah.
Really so you said in the moment you knew, oh, that wasn't what I intended.
And
obviously
I took
with
another
film
one.
You can't see. Is that just because the flash didn't fire at the right time and you thought, that's not going to have worked?
Exactly. The flash didn't fire at the right time. The exposure was too long, so I took one more after.
Right.
But already too, that had been too posed, because I was like, oh yeah, Carrie, let's like put your arms back up and we'll take one up. But this ended up being the one that was for keeps versus the other ones on the cutting room floor, you know?
Yeah. We didn't talk about your flash in your kit bag.
Oh, yeah.
In fact, we just kind of kept it to lenses and cameras. We didn't really talk anything else. But talk to us about flash. Do you have one flash that kind of fits them all, or?
I have a lot of flashes because I love flashes. And some of these cameras too, like, you know, I love using like a fun Fuji X320 on the Leica. It's cute. It's tiny. I do use a Contax flash on the Contax. I use the tall, skinny one, the 140. I use some Godox flashes. I rent pro photos if I know I'm somewhere super dark and I need a really fast recharge time. I also love continuous lighting. I have a whole kit from like Harlow Light that I'm obsessed with that I initially got for just Super 8 work, but continuous light work is really finding a home in my film work as well.
Yeah. And how
Harlow
do you...
Light used to be called Hobo Light, but they rebranded recently.
Oh, okay. I've heard of Hobo Light.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so it's same company. They went through like a name rebrand.
Yeah. So how do you decide when to attach a flash and go with it? Is it just certain times of the day or depending on what the couple are looking for?
A combination, yeah. So I do like to see like what's occupying their brain or like what kind of photos they're sharing in their own life. Because a lot of people do have a film camera at this point or a little digital. There's certain cameras I don't like using with flash, despite trying. Like I don't really love like my Hasselblad with flash, but I do love the Plabo Machina with flash. There's some cameras I prefer off-camera flash with, some on-camera. Not to say it's like more of a vibe or a feeling, but I do like to think about like, is the goal of this photo to encapsulate the vibe of the place, the essence? Then there's very likely I'm not using flash in that moment, right? Because you want the atmosphere.
Yeah.
But I'm like, is this photo meant to document this person or this moment of this action happening? And then it's very likely that artificial light or flash is being used in that moment to like highlight the action or the person versus like the ambiance of the space. But if I have, following my 2-camera rule, if there's 2 cameras on me, one probably has flash on it and one doesn't. Minus the Holga. The Holga, I always use flash, even in broad daylight. I don't care. We're flashing away. That camera needs light.
Yeah. Okay. Fair enough. Videographer's worst nightmare. But.
Yeah, truly. But I'm not. But the thing is, remember, I'm not taking that many photos on a day either. So I'm not annoying too many videographers out there.
Yeah.
I always
I'm
ask
just kidding.
too.
Yeah. Well, that's good. How many videographers do you work with?
I wish I had a more consistent roster, but I'd say 2/3 of every wedding I do have a videographer there that's not me.
Yeah.
And I do really try to have a conversation before in terms of like, are you bringing continuous light? Where are you setting them up? Like, what's your feeling on flash? Is there anywhere I shouldn't stand? Or like, where do you prefer to stand during ceremony? Like, I want to make sure we're not in each other's like line of sight the whole time or anything like that. I mean, I'm moving, but if they want to get the approach coming down the aisle, then I'm very likely just going to position myself with them, because the last thing I want is like to ruin a beautiful shot because I'm deciding I want the other angle. Or it's like I know to plan ahead, like, oh, I need to be further away and I need a longer lens to like account for the angle I want to be at.
Yeah. Is there any filmmakers that you like the work of and enjoy working alongside?
Oh, okay. My personal favorite. Wow, that sounds too rude because there's a lot of people I do like, but I really I've had the chance to work with Hello Super Studios a couple times, and they blend digital and Super 8 work, and they're just a really fantastic team. I think they span both Europe and the US, and I've done like 3 weddings with them. And even though they can sometimes have a larger team, like 2 or 3, they're just very fun. And I think their approach to a wedding day is very similar to mine. Like, they're very rarely setting up like, a B or C cam on a tripod in a corner for like the whole duration. Like, they're very much moving with their cameras. And I think when my couples engage in their work and in my work, they're actually getting like a really nice compliment to each other with the work there.
HelloSuperstudios.com.
Yeah, I think that's them.
Is their primary thing Super 8? It does seem like it.
It is, but they do also digital work, and they do a great job integrating sound too, where needed. So it's like, I think they're a good blend of the hi-fi, lo-fi, also the nicest people.
Very cool.
But I love when it turns out they're the ones doing video for weddings. And you two, we all have to do a wedding together soon. We need to make it happen.
Yeah, that'd be cool.
Yeah, that would be cool. Well, I mean, I'm intrigued that you've picked them because I don't want to say if someone was to hire them, they probably wouldn't be hiring you to do the Super 8.
No, and that's okay, because I don't have the bandwidth on a wedding day to just devote myself to video.
Yeah.
I've done 2 weddings where I was only there for Super 8, and I had fun, but both times I was like really missing and yearning for being the one taking stills. So like I see my Super 8 as like not necessarily a full video replacement, but somebody who likes the idea of a wedding video, but doesn't want a full videography team.
Yeah, that's cool. Have I, so we don't spend our days looking at other wedding videographers. So it's kind of refreshing to see one, focusing on the film aspect of videography, which is really cool. I don't think we've even spoken to anyone on the podcast that just focuses on that.
You should reach out to them. They're very cool.
I might do. That's cool. Anyway, we're not here for them. We're here for you. Next image.
I'm here to hype everyone.
You've already got it up, Greg. So I love this image because in my eyes you can never have enough grain, and this is very, very grainy. And I'm wondering if this was a cropping of a film image, or if this was like what created this amount of grain. Why wouldn't you say, like, it would probably annoy Greg if I was to put this much grain in our film. So I don't do it because I want to keep Greg
the nail on the head. Do you know what this full image looks like?
No.
This full image.
Where did I find this? Where did I find this?
Because the crop is way more powerful than the image itself.
Okay.
This image, if you were to have access to the OG, this couple, it is like their full bodies walking in the bottom right hand of the frame. Like their full bodies are maybe taking up like 1/6 of a 35 millimeter frame.
Wow.
And
okay.
So that's just their full bodies. The full bodies were sort of interesting, and that's where I started. I was like, I don't need the landscape. I don't need the trees. But then I'm like, no, it's the fact they are reaching for each other's hands, about to like walk into their reception, which like you can glimpse the reception tent. So this crop is probably literally like if I had to guess, it's probably like 1/100th of the image, or like 1/80th of the image.
That is crazy.
It is the smallest moment, but it's like the gesture that makes the impact. And even like, this was Margot and Dylan. This is Dylan like holding her dress too as they walk. Like you can see he's holding her train.
Yeah.
Like, and you can see a glimpse of her veil. It's like, for me, like, this is where everything was happening, even though this was the tiniest part of a photo. And I think this is the power of printing out your work, because this crop only came to be after I printed the photo, and I was able to like go into the photo and like hold it in my hands and be like, wait, this is where the eye is going. Like what happens? I probably literally took like an X-Acto or Sharpie and crossed out the rest physically. And I'm like, oh, this is it. So then the digital version, I had to go and update to match like what this magic holding in the hand crop was.
Yeah.
Where the hell did I find this image from? I can't remember.
When I was preparing
site or something. Oh, what were you saying?
When I was preparing these images, my first thought was, wherever you find this image from, Simon, it's been a low res image. That was my first thought. And I was like, oh, I'm gonna have to blow it up to TV size.
Did you do any, like, because I've just found it on your Instagram, but usually Greg tries to remove some of the icons if I've just screen grabbed it, but you've not touched it at all, so it's not that.
It might be on my site somewhere. It's a photo I love, and it does go on Instagram. And I did some like dodging and burning of this photo too. Like,
okay,
there's some play there, but
yeah,
I love this. For me, like, this is like one of my, all these images you've pulled so far, like in my top 10 favorite photos I've taken of all time. So good catch.
Yeah.
Well, I like it. Is that the last one, Greg?
No, there's one more.
There's one more. I wonder what it is.
Wow.
There is another one. It's so annoying when I go through all these amazing images. It's a table details.
It's a table. It's one I keep printed above my desk.
Table.
I keep that one printed.
Yeah.
Oh, interesting. I don't normally do details. Why
you don't normally do wide details?
I don't
if it's a
normally
detail,
do wide
normally
details.
it's a blurry, confusing thing. This is a beautiful room.
So I'm going to admit, I can't actually remember why I picked this image, but it could be the fact that for a while I was going through this thing where venues weren't lighting their candles for a long time, and and so there's this fight where I'm like, okay, I'm going to take the table details as it is, in case I can't get back into the room when it's completely finished. And sometimes the room is, and I have to, like, if there's details in our films, and I've had to fight, I have gotten them so quickly that they're not done particularly well, but I've got them. So so I'm wondering if you had this same fight, and what your approach to that sort of thing is, as well as just your general approach to details like this, because a lot of digital shooters are adding in this crazy motion blur trend that's happening, and you haven't done that here, whereas you have done it in some of your other parts of your portfolio. But I don't think I would maybe have to go through again, but I don't think you've ever gone that crazy with your table details.
No.
So I just kind of wanted to get your thoughts on all those things I've just said, which is many, and I am sorry.
No, I love a good, honest detail. I love when there's play too, but for me, if I'm play, it's probably going to be flash, and not always like a shutter drag, but like we're going to play with where the light is coming from. But in this case, this was a wedding where there was a lot going on. It's at one of my favorite venues near my home called Stissing House. I love doing weddings here. This was Cordelia and Joe's wedding. They just celebrated their 1-year anniversary. And there was so much going on with cocktail hour, which was downstairs and outside. I didn't want to sacrifice missing cocktail hour in lieu of detail photos, but I also knew the way they set up these long tables in this space. Also, this is like one of the oldest restaurants in all of New York State, building wise. Like, I think it's from the 1700s.
What?
Yeah, cool.
Which, compared to like the UK, not that old, but like for here, that's very old. And even though stuff had not been lit yet, I'm like, I'm still going to capture this room in this honest way before it's filled with people. And I kind of like that it almost looked like it's either before dinner or it could be after the dinner, not in a messy way, but like it almost looks like it's closed. It gives a closed restaurant vibe, but not like in a spooky way, but it's just like, has something happened or will something happen? And this was on the Hasselblad, which, like, in my opinion, lends itself really well to when I'm shooting very slow and honestly. It's like very dreamy, some greens from the ceiling. And I used to be really kind of like hell-bent on when it was time for details, I'd be like, take details like once camera or candles are lit and like tables set. But at this point, I'm like, sometimes just getting the room like in flux or before it's fully done is also okay, because it's part of that process. And it's like, it's very likely the first time Cordelia and Joe toured Stissing House and were brought upstairs, this is probably how it looked upstairs. Not table set, but this is probably what the lighting was like. Probably the wall sconces were on, but there weren't like beautiful tapers lit everywhere the way they were later in that evening. And I just kind of really wanted this moment of stillness before everything happened, because like downstairs was this big, boisterous, colorful wedding of joy. And I think there's something really beautiful about that anticipatory moment. And I similarly, like, I do like details, but I don't always consider them my like North Stars. But as I just pulled down and showed, that's like one of the prints I keep on my wall above me to like remind me of why I do this work, and like how there's sometimes something really beautiful in a moment that's like not quite finished or quite right.
Yeah.
So I've went and found that gallery, and there's I mean, is it the first image? There's an image that you took of her walking up the hill.
Yes.
And I was so close to picking that one as well from this gallery. I love that image as well.
It's so dreamy. Her and I, Cordelia and I think her first reaction is, I was like, this could be in Vogue. And I was like, oh yeah, like this photo is like such a dream, because it shows the drama of the dress. It shows the house they were getting ready at. And I love that she's going towards something. I think a lot of this gallery was about those in-between and transition moments, which like a wedding day is that. You're going towards something. You're walking away from something else. You know what I mean? It is this
Yeah.
like big transition. And I think it's so cool when like wedding photographs can evoke those feelings of like what the day means.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you know, going through your galleries, I remember a thought process was I'd heard a photographer who had worked with us didn't really get like a full length of the bride's dress. And I, at the time, I was thinking, oh yeah, I suppose that's quite hard. Like thinking, oh, video, because we have to shoot everything in landscape. But then I'm looking at nearly every single one of your images, and from the actual day, not the portrait session, but you have so many full length images of your bride here,
Yeah.
and I appreciate that quite a bit. So I kind of want to, I know we're on show and tell, it's not show and tell anymore. And are we on time? Oh God, we're over time. I'll ask you this one.
I'm like, I'm not going anywhere. You two might have somewhere to go.
Okay.
We do have a couple calls soon.
Yeah. What's your thoughts to your placement in what you're shooting in terms of like documenting? Because I mean, it still blows my mind that you wouldn't find a full length of the bride in general in a gallery. I'm like, how can that happen?
Yeah.
So,
well, I think for me, it's actually so interesting because I used to never really think about it and it would happen. But then I had one couple that they hired me to just photograph their rehearsal dinner to save money. But then hired a much more famous, successful, cool photographer to do their wedding day. And I will never forget this couple, the woman in particular, coming to me near tears after getting her wedding photos back. And just like, she didn't owe me any apology or anything, but she was like, I so wish we had hired you to photograph our wedding. Like, you photographed us just at our rehearsal dinner, like looking honest and like looking at each other, and like photos that I'm excited to look back on. And she's like, every photo from our wedding day, it just feels like it's about like what the photographer thought was important, but not about us. And like very trendy, and yeah, a lot more tight crops. And it was in that moment that I'm like, I owe it to every single one of my couples, after hearing this devastation in this woman's voice and experience, to like make sure everyone gets at least one really good, honest photo of their wedding day that like really shows them and like what they've chosen to wear, where they've chosen to be. And that is like one thing I make sure I do for every wedding, is like, you want that record of existence. It like goes back to like our opening conversation, where it's like, I want to come in and make art, but I also want to come in and make something that stands the test of time for each of my couples.
I mean, that honesty part of your images, whether it is the kind of arty kind of line that you go down or the full documentary, like I do feel that you do keep things incredibly honest.
Yeah.
And I just wonder why people struggle, I think, so much. But then obviously I caught myself thinking, well, I can understand, because there's so many expectations that a photographer needs to have, or how we're told an image should look like. And obviously with that more famous photographer, like he probably has a lot, or he or she has a lot of pressure, or they has a lot of pressure in trying to capture, like live up to the name that
exactly,
you know. And I think that's a lot of pressure.
It's a lot. And it's a lot when a client hires you based on that too, because like, you know, not to backtrack on that, but it's like that client shared the gallery with me that the other photographer took. And in my mind, I'm like, oh, well, this work looks like the rest of their work. And it's like why they were hired. But then you sometimes don't think about how that translates to your own wedding photos that you hold in your hand. It's not the photographer side, the client side. And I think that's like the most important thing, is like make sure you can like see yourself in the work that other people are making. Cause like, it's okay. Like there's some photographers whose work I love so much, but I would never try to emulate it or try to like be influenced by that style in my own work, because like it just doesn't match the point of view I go into a day with. But I think clients should be asking the same thing of themselves, and photographers too. Like we should be asking ourselves, like, is this a trend that like speaks to me and fits into like my current resolve and resolution, or is this not for me? And that's okay if it's not for you. It like, I think cutting through the noise is important. And I think like always, I think printing out your work and looking at your work and knowing your work that's yours is also important. And trusting that your clients are choosing you because the work you're making is important.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And give yourself room for play. Everyone should play. Like no one should go into it doing the same things every time.
Yeah. Again, I really do love actually a lot of your images. I feel like I've played it safe with the show and tell.
Showing another.
Can you see this image?
Yes,
I just
that's at
want to
the
know.
same Stissing House wedding.
It is. I'm just
that's just
going through
going-
it
That's just going around with the contacts and like catching the moments, like not stopping to overthink. You just shoot, and sometimes you get a good thing.
Yeah, and I'm assuming you move quite quickly through the day. You're going through groups of people.
Oh yeah.
And I think that can be quite nice to not outlive your welcome.
Yes.
But yeah, there's just so many. I really do encourage our listeners out there to go
Thank you.
check out your blog, because a lot of these images are, I don't want to overuse the word honest, but there is a realness to them.
Yeah.
You have caught them. Sure, they're celebrating, but there is that realness to it. Whether it's like this image, I don't see. You've got a portrait of one of the groomsmen, with towels hanging behind him, and I don't know, he's smiling away. And then there's humor there. Yes. I'm just like, what?
And that was a guest that I like developed really nice rapport with, because he came up to me actually because I was shooting with this is the first wedding I brought the Machina to. And he goes, "Are you shooting with the Machina? Because John Dolan shoots with the Machina." And
oh, really?
I was like, I didn't even know John Dolan shoots with the Machina. I just got it because it's beautiful, and I just want to just get as close to large format as I can all the time. So 6x7 kind of scratches that itch. So him and I and he brought a mini lux with him that day, and he had snapped my photo a couple of times. So like this was like by the end of the night, we were like kind of in this goofy pattern, and I think he was there with his beautiful now fiance. And like there was just a really nice rapport happening. So this was like this is the type of photo you can make after you already break the ice with somebody.
Yeah.
So it's like he was so aware of me, and I was aware of him, and at this point it was kind of like this, like I'm gonna get you, like.
Yeah, I love that. Yeah, I do love all these images.
So
Thank you.
if the listeners want to go and check out some of these photos, where can they find you online?
Yeah, so they can find me online on my website at autumn-jordan.com. You can find me on Instagram at it's Autumn Jordan, but there's not a lot of vowels, so it's ATMNJRDN. You can also find me in Gather Around Film. You can find me in Summer Grace's community too, Summer School. And
Summer Graces.
Yeah, and then you can find she's my seasonal friend. Summer, autumn, we're a perfect pair match. She has a pretty cool podcast. She has a very cool podcast too, actually. You all should collab sometime.
Oh, okay.
She's very cool. She like really has a nice digital film hybrid scenario going on. And it's like very like, in my opinion, she's like the voice of the Gen Zers.
Right, okay.
Yeah. So very fun there.
Ellie? She in LA? No?
LA, yeah. LA based, yes.
Okay. Summer Grace, LA wedding photographer and educator.
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
And then I do host mentorships primarily in my home in the Hudson Valley that you can catch me online. And those are geared around anything, but not to be the best ones, not to rank them, but usually around learning 4x5. And I'll be teaching my first 4x5 workshop next month on the Catskills.
Ooh, exciting.
Cool.
Awesome.
Yeah, thank you
Thank
both
you
so
thank you
much.
for
Thank you.
joining us.
Yeah.
People can find us at perspectivebycinemate.com. Our Instagram and our YouTube is at Perspective by Cinemate. Thank you to With Jack and Pick Time for sponsoring this episode. If you have enjoyed this conversation, please do hit subscribe wherever you get your podcasts, and on YouTube. That would be great. And hopefully we'll see you in the next one. However,
In the meantime,
enjoy your life.
I love your logo. Is there a story with your coffee guy, or is that you two like together when you don't have enough coffee?
So
Because I make that face sometimes when I need another cup. While I'm like already nursing a full cup, you like are already reaching for the next one. Like, you know those days?
Oh, yeah.
yep.
Yeah. Quite often we'll go through a ridiculous amount of coffee on like days where we're just podcasting multiple episodes.
Yeah.
And then by the end of it, I can barely speak. Yeah. But yeah, so this guy, his name is McTavish.
McTaggish.
He is a haggis inspired beastie with a coffee. And yeah.
I love him. So we have Greg, we have Simon, and we have McTaggish.
That's right.
Okay, perfect.
Yeah. Are you comfortable, Gregory?
Just adjusting my seat. I felt like I was a bit too high.
Okay.
So this is nice casual conversation. Go into some random topics. We'll get into some of your work, all the good things.
Thank you.
Simon's got a wee introduction to do. Then towards the end of the episode, we'll pull up a few of your images on the TV behind us, and we'll talk about sort of how they were created.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you. I'm so excited.
Sweet. Yeah. Yes, us too. Right. Are you recording, Greg?
We are.
With the highest quality? All good. Oh, did we check levels? We didn't even check levels.
Oh yeah. How
They're
do I sound? I have a mic set up. Not
Sounding
this.
really good.
Okay, cool.
If you just keep talking so that Simon can adjust the
Yeah.
level.
Perfect. Oh, I like all your tattoos, Simon.
Oh, thank you.
I feel like I'm often too. It's rare that I'm in short sleeves and then they're like all out and everyone's like, whoa. But I had like the most awkward interaction, I feel like, on Saturday. I had somebody say like, oh, I like your tattoo. And I'm like, oh yeah, like she's my favorite one. And they go, oh, not that one. And I was like,
oh. What were they talking? Which one were they referring
they
to?
were talking about the quail. They really like, but they called it a pigeon. But I'm like, no, it's a quail.
Oh, yeah.
But I just assumed they were talking about the giant one on my forearm that like is always there.
I mean, yeah.
Not the one that's like tucked into the side here. But I've never heard someone say, not that one.
Yeah. I hear there's a trend at the moment where people are regretting their tattoos.
Is it?
People are getting them removed. It's like the new thing.
I think it's for people who like to follow trends, tattoos are very permanent. So I think people who kind of go in and out of trends should not be getting tattoos. Because
that's a beautiful way to put it. I mean, I feel like, I don't know how many you have. Like, I have one. I have at least one I wish I didn't have, but like, I'm never going to remove it because I'm like, oh, when I was like 17 years old, that was like the most important thing to me.
Yeah. I would never get any removed. I would maybe go over one. Like I did have like 3 stars on my chest, which
talk about trendy.
Oh man, that was height of fashion back in the day, and I got that semi-drunk in Greece with my two pals, and so I didn't want to get it removed, but I did get it. I did get something else put over my chest.
But I think it's nice it's like still there hiding though, because like in that moment, whether it was like, you know, a lucid or non-lucid decision, it was like meaningful. Like that's my like stance. I'm like, don't fully get rid of, because like you really can't. You can still tell like when they've been removed. It's like just embrace that you went through a time. Like
Exactly. Yes. And the fact that I got a tattoo while semi-drunk was pretty that is a dodgy thing to do.
Yeah.
So
That's
I don't know.
That's how I feel about my like back tattoo that I got when I was 17 years old from my friend's sibling with a tattoo gun. Like we went on Pinterest and chose tattoos. And
Oh my God. How big is this back tattoo?
It's not too big. It does go up my neck and over my shoulder, but it was a very popular Pinterest tattoo, and I've run into a couple other women with the same tattoo. It's a dandelion turning into birds.
All right. Okay. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
But yeah, so original, so meaningful to me as a person. It's like really deep for me. But there's times where I've thought about getting it blasted over or removed, but I'm like, honestly, like just the memories of hiding that from my parents for like the next year while I lived at home and like hiding it from my grandfather like the rest of his life. It's just like, it's too good to get rid of in that regard.
Yeah.
Even though the tattoo's terrible, it's not by a professional tattoo artist.
Yeah, I get that.
Yeah.
Oh right, should we? I just realized we hadn't started yet.
Sorry.
It's fine.
Go for your intro. And then
Okay.
then we'll keep talking.